Major breaking news at FIFA headquarters as they seem to have adopted a new resolution for the laws of the game that will tell us which ways are correct to win, according to Fabian Hurzeler. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot, the Black Man, Twitter Gang Gunner. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a podcast about the right way to win. And I'm going to tell you something, and you know, I'm not the keenest watcher of football. You know that about me by now. But the right way to win is the one where at the end of the game, you have more goals than the opposition. And we did that last night. We scored a goal. Fabian Hurzeler, who played in the right way and lost in the right way, their team scored no goals. I do want to give Mikel Arteta a hat tip for his comment when they tried to poke the bear and ask him about Hurzeler's comments. And all he said was, "What a surprise." Fantastic answer from Mikel Arteta, who can smile because he won. He won in the wrong way, obviously, but he won, and that's what matters. Fabulous instant reaction last night. I think we did one of our more fun pods of recent times on Tuesday when Clive and I did a countdown, 10 questions. We covered lineups and title run-ins and Champions League permutations and all kinds of stuff. You can check that out if you want to. Saliba50 is the code to get it half off. But last night was a night that we may be talking about for a long time if things go our direction. So many ways that it went well, it's hard to keep track of all of them because Forest got it over the line somehow. We'll talk about the anxiety of how they managed to do that, meaning that we have stretched our lead to 7 points with a game in hand. Meanwhile, West Ham got a win, meaning that Tottenham Hotspur, who will kick off later today as we record, may find themselves in genuine relegation challenges. Chelsea beat Villa 4-1, which is quite funny, and also maybe puts a slightly different gloss on our result over them as well, which is always nice. But it's all happening. And that's the only thing I can say. It's all happening. We love you for being here, being part of this journey, because today we wake up and I think we feel really, really good about where we are. And the men who are going to talk about how we feel good, but also, let's be fair, some of the ways this game maybe wasn't going to be hung in the Louvre for years to come, regardless of the right or wrong way to win, is Paul. Hello, Paul.
Woohoo! If it had been hung in the Louvre and you were short of toilet paper, you could always tear a few strips off this particular performance.
Well, we do know people like to walk into the Louvre and take things off the wall. So, I mean, why should this be any different? And Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
All right. Before we do the analysis of the game, and I think the game is an interesting one to analyze because I think there were periods where we were not on top and not playing our best. I think there were subs that changed the game, and that's going to all be very interesting to analyze. But there's nowhere to start other than just the pure emotion of the final moments of getting this over the line and then what happened at the Etihad and the way the away crowd reacted to it. It's just a special moment. So I kind of want to talk through your feelings of it. Clive, this feels like we've been talking about turning points. And then there's other turning points, and the thing keeps turning back and forth. But this feels like a really big momentum shift, a monumental moment in the title race. And I just want to get your read on the anxiety and exhilaration of what happened in those last few minutes when we got it over the line and City didn't.
Yeah, I felt we got better as the game went on, just looking at it, and I felt better as the game went on. What my overriding feeling from last night, look, everyone has a level of nerves when you're 1-0 up, and you know that we're under a bit more pressure because the chasing team is Manchester City that have won 1 million championships and won the treble a couple of years ago, etc., etc. So you can't help but feel, oh, crikey, this is going to happen again. But what I thought about last night, my overriding feeling was it was very unifying that night. Because all of the people that seemed to be against us pre-game, the press conferences pre-game, the way we played, and then post-game, the comments post-game, all it's done is unify everybody and say, right then, if that's what you're going to say about us, this is what we're going to do to look after our house. And we're going to embrace this. And I think it's now taken away a level of issues around this player, that player, how we play. But within the Arsenal world, what it should do, because we are at war with everybody else that seems to be against us. And so what Ursula did and everyone else has done on various radio stations and pundits, all it's doing is unifying us. If it isn't, it should do. It absolutely should do. And this is our identity right now, worrying for competitions and obviously struggling with fatigue. If this is what we can do at this moment in time, embrace it and just keep ticking off the wins, because we are getting closer to a very, very special time in our lives.
Yeah, really, really well said. I think the siege mentality mode is fully activated now, right? And you can come across as whiners if you're constantly reacting to how the media talks about you. But when you get to the point where the opposition manager is saying he wouldn't want to win in the way that we played and talking about how we're ruining football and the rules need to be looked at, I almost think Hurzeler's comments went so far as to galvanize support for Arsenal that it almost is whiplashing back on him. And I think that can only be a good thing. No one's going to say that we are playing our absolute best football this season right now, or did at Brighton, but we showed the hallmark of champions, they always tell us, right, is when you don't have your best game, can you get it over the line? And we did. And Paul, I think we are creating a reaction to the narrative that can help this team get over the line. So I know you were very animated by the way the narrative was playing out last night. You wanted to talk about that. I want to give you an opportunity to sort of restate some of your thoughts there. Hurzeler's comments, the media narrative about Arsenal, and how that can galvanize us on the last few games we need to get it over the line here.
Well, it'll absolutely galvanize us. Fully on board with Clive's view of it. And it's stupid. It's just all so stupid. Like, if his point was he's played teams in the middle of March who were tired, who were more progressive in their game, fair enough. It's not what he said, though. It was like we were an offence to football. Arsenal has played some of the best football, probably the best football on average over the last 25 years, and they laughed at us. So they're not laughing now. This is a serious team that in early to mid-March, when the legs are going, when we're crying out for a break, when we're they always talk about the spine of your team in football. Well, man, have we got the best spine in the game. And like his diatribe comes from a place of defensiveness, I think, or the spotlight being on him or something, and he's trying to borrow the narrative to clothe himself, because his team weren't very good. I mean, I don't know what he thinks. If he thinks we just sat in our box for the whole game, we didn't. We had trouble progressing the ball. We lost the ball in all sorts of situations. So we struggled in this game, and he did nothing with it. His team was not very good. He just didn't do very much. They had loads of the ball. They put on zero threat against us for large chunks of this game. And it's just a cheap shot on his side. I think Mikel's performances generally as a manager, in terms of press conferences and how he handles himself, have come on massively. I think he's grown in stature this year. I think he was excellent before, during, after this game. And he's actually carrying himself like a serious manager who makes you feel he's already won a Premier League before. He's got that kind of presence about him. I love what he's doing in these games. He gives it just enough, but not too much that he goes chasing it, because he doesn't need to. Yeah. We're doing our talk on the pitch, and the responsibility for this should be put where it squarely belongs, which is we have a jaded team because we're in 4 competitions. We're fecking knackered, and we're just trying to get a breather so we can go again and get some injured players back, some of our players who have some of the sizzle and can add to our attack. And I think we've done manfully, heroically, to get, on a night when everybody else wilted, get a result that was down to grit and determination. And what the hell is wrong with that? We've played plenty of attacking matches. Yes, we'd all love to play more attacking football more often. Give us more rested players who aren't playing 2 games a week, fewer injured players. We'll play some more football for you.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Zubimendi, the most minutes of any outfield player this season. Jurriën Timber second, Declan Rice third. Does anyone think they were at the absolute top of their game last night? They're knackered. Per Harvey Downs on Blue Sky, Arsenal have won 34 games in all competitions this season, already the joint most wins we've had in a single season under Mikel Arteta. We're playing a lot, and we're winning a lot, and we're getting there by hook or by crook, and that's really the only measure at this time of the season. I do think that Fabian Herzler could have gone another way, by the way. He could have said, my team took on the team that's currently a favorite to win every competition in world football, and I think we were the better side on the night and a bit unfortunate. Sure. He could have said that and come away with credit for a club that spent a lot of money since Hurzeler arrived and is sitting currently bottom half of the table. So he could have refocused this as credit for what his group did. Instead, he said the following: I think you can really feel that they do everything to win this game, and in the end, it's about rules. If the Premier League, if the referee allows everything, then it's difficult. Then they make their own rules. At the moment, I have the feeling Arsenal are doing their own rules, no matter how they are playing. That's why I think it's difficult to judge. Overall, like I said, I will never be that kind of manager who tries to win in that way. I want my players to do well. I want my players to keep improving and keep playing football on the pitch. And in the end, of course, every team will manage and waste time. But I think there has to be a limit, and the limit has to be set by the Premier League. The limit has to be set by referees. At the moment, they can just do what they want. He comes across looking terribly in this. He lost the opportunity to praise his own team, which I think just reflects his immaturity as a young manager, and maybe galvanize a little support for Arsenal. But I want to take it out of the context of Fabian Hurzeler's comments soon here, because I think it's important to get in the Arsenal of it. So, Clive, any final thoughts just on the massive head loss? I mean, let's face it, it is what it is. It's massive head loss. He was completely rattled by us. And, you know, I think it's played better for us than for him, candidly.
Yeah, I have many sayings, you know. One of them is every day you go to work, you're interviewing for your next opportunity. Someone's always watching you. So if you are a prospective employer of Fabian Herzler and you're seeing how he behaved pre and post this game, a young manager, there's only won one of his last 8 games, by the way. And you need to say, hold on a minute here. Do I want that sort of eruptions in my club? You know, and I think there's almost like an unwritten word. There's a level of respect between managers. They may not like each other. You always notice when someone loses their job, managers are always sympathetic towards that person. There's a brotherhood. There's no one else doing this. There's 20 of them, like Formula One drivers, right? There's only a few in the world that are doing this in the Premier League at this level, and the amount of effort they have to put in just to prepare for a game. And for him to be so disrespectful to a fellow manager, I think, no, you've stepped over the line there. And I think there'll be chairmen looking around thinking, well, I don't like to cut up his jib. I'll move on somewhere else. So sometimes you need to have he needs someone in his ear saying, okay, I know you're competitive. I know you're trying to create a home field advantage, which you are entitled to do. But remember, there's always another day, and these clubs all need each other for differing reasons, you know. And so, yeah, I think he overstepped the mark, and I've lost a lot of respect for him. We're all interested in young coaches doing well. I lost a lot of respect for him, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I'm not just with my Arsenal hat on. If that was 2 other people, I would be thinking, ooh, I'm not sure I like that. You know, I'm not sure it feels good. But I have got my Arsenal hat on, and it's on real firm at the moment. And so he needs to... I don't think Arsenal people will forget Brighton and forget him in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, look, Mikel said it best. What a surprise. You can go back to the previous games and you'll find a lot of comments. I love my players. That's the highlight. I love my players. We love our players. And I love the way we compete. Just a class reaction to it, not to be drawn in. And I think it's just brilliant. Paul, a final thought on this, because we should make this about Arsenal. It is a huge celebratory night for the club. And Hurzeler has stolen out of the oxygen, which maybe is helpful to us and can galvanize support around our club, as I mentioned. But I don't want to make it just about him, because he is a little man who lost in the right way.
He's a little man. No, I'll make it about us, and it'll be quick.
Mm-hmm.
In the first 10 minutes, we had 2 really good attacks. We came to play. We came to win. We came to score a goal. We scored a goal, Fabian, from open play in 9 minutes. After we'd had the attack before with Saka squaring the ball that Martinelli kind of cut inside instead of going to the 6-yard.
He was chasing butterflies.
Yeah,
where it was going.
Yeah. We had 2 really good attacks in 9 minutes. He's complaining about that. Then it's up to you, Fabian. We're ahead. We're tired. It's up to you to do the running.
Yeah,
we did our bit. We came to win. Like, he makes it sound like we came to draw. We were ahead.
Yeah,
it's like that Chelsea dialogue in the Carabao Cup. We were a goal up. It's up to you to do something. We stuffed them. We stuffed these guys with 1 goal.
Yeah. And look, Fabian Herzler had a front row seat to Declan Rice getting sent off for touching the ball after the whistle, and Saliba getting adjudged to have committed a penalty infraction from contesting a header. So, if he wants to talk about
massive
rules,
credit for that, about what a tactical genius he was.
Yeah. Clive, look, the really exciting part of this, and it was such a beautiful moment, because if you stayed on the Arsenal footage, if you continue to watch the Arsenal game after the whistle, the roar that went up from the away end at full time of the City game was massive. I've seen the video of that subsequently. But I made the poor life choice to not stay on the Arsenal game, but to switch over to the City game. I wish I hadn't. My cardiologist is glad I did. He'll be able to buy a new Ferrari off of what happened to me last night. But like, Clive, that final sequence at City, we really may be looking back on it for all the extent that we look back on the Heung-min Son miss or the Chris Wood miss from 2 seasons ago. That goal line clearance from that scramble at the end, everything flashed before my eyes quickly. So just your thoughts on the roar of the away fans, the support that the traveling fans provided to Arsenal to roar them on to victory, and then City not quite getting that late winner that I think we all expected was going to fly into the back of the net.
Yeah, I spoke to a few people in that end, and I do think, obviously, we heard Tim's voice note from last night, which I thought was magnificent. I do think this was one to be there for. I know last week you sort of laughed at me that I was quite relaxed in the Chelsea game. Well, not quite relaxed, but fairly relaxed.
It's not that I laughed, I was jealous of you.
I do think when you're there, you see everything. You see the movement, you see the players, you see their intensity, you see how focused they are, and despite this narrow scoreline, you just have a feeling. And obviously the away fans, and Tim said it beautifully, and he said he really felt the support from that group, and that everybody was with them. And Tim doesn't throw away words like that very often. You know, he doesn't. That's not the way he approaches his messaging. It must have been strong. I spoke to other people in the ground and said this night was massive, like massive, and that's their feeling. It was a massive moment. And as the camera panned around all those faces, many of them, which some of us have seen online and know, it was just like, I felt really pleased for them, because those people, they really do it, mate. They travel, they do it. For those who don't travel away, are not fortunate enough to be able to do it, because it's a very tight group of people. There's a lot goes into it, a lot of commitment, a lot of dodgy trains, a lot of late trains, a lot of having to book hotels. And when you lose, no one cares about you, mate. Just get yourself home. You know, and they get a moment like that, and I always feel really pleasurable for them. I always feel pleased for them, sorry. And the roar was just like, one we'll remember, won't it? One we'll remember. Yeah. That's, and you know, I felt so pleased, but also a little bit jealous I wasn't standing there in amongst them.
I think we all felt that way. And
but yeah, magnificent performance from all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it, and I think it was. Tim said that the "We will not be moved" chant went up for the first time that he's heard in, a couple of decades. It just full-throated support. The Piero and Capier song went up a lot, and rightfully so. A beautiful night for the away support. An incredible moment when that City game ended. I think it was like air had filled your lungs again. I can't really describe it. My friend Tim and I were messaging each other in the late stages of the Brighton game, literally saying, why do we do this? Why do we watch football? It's reaching that level of intensity, of joy and misery and anxiety. And then I think about what the players are going through wearing all that and the resilience they showed last night. It really is something. So I don't think it's going to be easy from here, but it just gave us that little bit of air. And I think the timing now is really interesting because it's Mansfield at the weekend. Chance to rotate and hopefully get some rest. Then it's Champions League midweek. So we'll have a full week to prepare for Leverkusen in the right way. With this extra gap now at the top to just give us that courage, that confidence to come off a big turning point in the season like this, flowing into a critical part of the season with City fading slightly and us now coming back to the fore. And maybe it's a reminder to the players that Mikel can say, look at this team that's chasing you. This is not vintage City. They just got held at home to Forest. We can do this. It is a great moment to galvanize confidence and support around the club on so many levels, and I'm so happy for it. So let's get into the actual match itself. And obviously the news that Saliba's out was worrying. We have not had good results without Saliba, and I think in particular with the challenge we've had keeping the ball and building play and controlling possession, he's an important part of that. So a big miss there. Mascara came in. But Paul, to your point, the opening phases of the game, we really did have some good moments. In addition to the goal that we scored, Eberechi Eze played in Saku, tried to get it to Martinelli. We had a couple other, I think, sort of half-chance moments. So it started brightly, But pretty soon after that, Brighton started to get on top. And I think the first half is one of our poorer performances in a long time. So without wanting to get too into the negatives of the day, I think we should analyze it. Moving past the point where we got out in front, what did you regard as the challenges we were having in keeping the ball and really influencing the game? I think this is our lowest passing percentage, 71% of the season.
I rewatched the first half, and the strange thing is we're trying to play. The passes aren't joining up. It's progressive stuff. We're not playing it backwards and we're trying to keep the momentum going. We have no desire to play 90 minutes camped in our half. We end up in our half because tired legs, stringing a couple of passes together. We're doing the same things we always do, but the momentum isn't there, and you string a couple of passes together, you lose the ball. After a while, you fall into a rut. There's no big mystery here, I don't think. It's a tired team hanging in there, having the goal advantage, not doing stupid things, hoping they can string a few together and get some momentum and get down the other end of the pitch, and not having to do anything crazy to get there, not forcing something that isn't there. I just think it's an unremarkable game to discuss, which I know is the point of the podcast.
Terrific.
But there are 3, 4, 5 games a year in which, what was the story? We were tired and the passes didn't hit, and, we were missing 1 or 2 of our sparky players. There's really no news here. And we had a couple of players who came in who maybe didn't quite hit their marks. Sleep is always a big miss because of the distribution aspect. But Gabriel these days can now stand up and distribute. He's pretty good on that side. So I don't even think that's fully it. Mosquera is a reasonable distributor. He didn't have his sharpest best night in 1 or 2 situations. Maybe wouldn't have been quite so lively if Saliba had been there, but who knows? Saliba could have been knackered. It might just have been one of those games on the calendar at this point in the season in which we were going to look a little jaded. But did we have the focus, the concentration, the professionalism? And through all of this, what we're seeing this season, maybe it's the difference between us and some of our competitors, is the professionalism of these guys. They don't give dumb, stupid decisions for referees to make or create drama where there was none. And we kind of moved through our paces and just wasn't quite hitting.
So I hate to do this, but I'm going to disagree with you. I think the first half was kind of a mess. Now, look, by the way, congrats to Saka. He scores a goal in his 300th appearance. 300 appearances is amazing. Obviously, everybody pointing out to do that at this age, too, is something worth noticing, that he's already made that many appearances, and scoring a goal in your 300th appearance. Great way to do it. But there were a lot of moments in the first half that were really bad. It starts off with David Raya just giving the ball away, and Gabby has to head off the line brilliantly. And we could have been 1-0 down after 3 minutes, right? Mosquera gets that early yellow. Kavanagh, again, a night to forget, just a referee who wants to be told what to do by the fans. And I think we got lucky that Mosquera wasn't sent off after that, but he gets the early yellow. Matoma's played in when the defensive line is not right, and Gabby has to make that sensational sliding challenge. Brighton then played through us again, and the shot was blocked by their own guy. I can't remember who it went off of, but it was played off his own guy. And I thought in general, we were just really struggling to gain any control. Forget the passing, right? That 71% I referenced, our lowest percentage since 2021 against Manchester City. But Clive, what worried me a little bit was the ease with which Brighton were able to progress it and create, if not clear chances, dangerous moves. And that's something that hasn't been a hallmark of this team. I know we wind up getting the clean sheet, but in the first half, they were moving it up the pitch with relative ease. So can you talk about maybe just tactically what wasn't working that was allowing Brighton to so easily recover the ball from us and then bring it up into dangerous areas?
I didn't think it was easy. And I think there's a level of confidence that we can control them off the ball. And so if you're not flowing well on the ball, can you control a team off the ball? I thought we controlled Chelsea off the ball. Actually, I thought Chelsea, when I'm on rewatch, had better quality moments. And I thought we had a level of control over Brighton. Just because we have to make these tackles, we made them. And we stopped them having too many clear moments, or having clear moments without having pressure on the person trying to score, which is all part of it. You know, and don't give people
more
uncontested
last-ditch
shots.
defending than we'd like to be doing.
Yeah, well, obviously, and it happens, right? Other teams want to play football too, right? But we've got people who can catch people up after giving the ball away and make the tackles, and they walk away with the spoils and the man of the match award. And so the way I look at it, right, we have different ways of playing over the season, and we develop different styles. So at this moment in time, we're playing the Eze Gyökeres thing. We're having a double pivot. We've got fullbacks in place. And we are very much playing in our pairs, and I quite like it. Until it doesn't work, because a key component is not controlling the ball. We're not getting the ball. We're not making the right decisions. Our key persons come out of our back line. So our build up on our right-hand side, which we continually attack around 40% of the time, has disappeared. We can't get the ball to our best player. He can't get a level of continuity, the way he holds people off. And we come out of that area and we go out the other side and play. So straight away, the machine broke down a little bit. But this is where you need to think differently and say, okay, the machine's broke. And by the way, we scored from the right-hand side. But the machine's broke. We're not looking right. We look like we got the Chelsea game in our legs. Everyone's blowing, you know, reaching for water, reaching for gels. We're blowing. The machine's broke. So what do? We defer. We defer to the other part of the game which we have, which is we are confident that we can counter-press them, tackle them, and play the ball in behind. And I thought we missed a couple of opportunities once we got the ball. I thought Zubi missed one. We made some bad touches, bad decisions. And I immediately, my mind went to, mate, this ain't a 50 passes and they get a touch game. This is you have the ball, we're going to tackle you and we're going to pick your pockets. That's what it felt like for me. So once you see that game, accept it. You can't walk into a game expecting to see Saliba, Odegaard to Saka, back to Odegaard, flip to the back post, Havertz. That's a dreamy sunny day in August. This is March, mate. This is winning time. Football changes. You know, it becomes desperate on occasions. It becomes frenzied on occasions. It needs to slow down on occasions. It becomes all of these things to try to win. You know, so we all want that leads away. Can we have that 5 more times, please, so I can just relax? Where we were just super sharp. Every decision was good. All the players we wanted to score scored. We lost our star boy before the game, and Madueke comes in and was brilliant. Everything went well. We all want Spurs away. We want these moments. When you don't have those moments, like we haven't had in previous years, Villa at home in the league games, Fulham at home to 10 men. What do you do in those moments? Do you derail or do you fight back and get you 1-0? And we fought and got a 1-0. And that is part of who we are, Elliot. You know, it is part of who we are. And if we have to grab onto this identity right now, mate, I'm going to grab onto it tight. Because once that game's gone, that Brighton game, I will not be keeping that on my Sky Q box. That'll be deleted, right? I'm not going to look at it and say, my Bayern Munich one's still there. Spurs is still there. This one's going. Because I don't need to see it again. Because it's not about the pattern of play. It's about how we overcame them.
Yeah, and to be fair, some seasons you win a title with Henry and Pires, and some seasons you win a title with Big Gabby and Piero and Capia. You know, I mean, like it is what it is, because that recovery when Rice lost the ball out by the touchline and Capia charged back and got it, and then Rice got back into position to block the shot. You need moments like that. You're right. The Gabby sliding challenge, the Gabby header off the line. You don't want to be last-ditch defending all the time, but let's be clear also. We're seeing how hard the league is. I mean, we're seeing it. Wolves beat Liverpool. City couldn't beat Forest at home, and Brighton away isn't an easy fixture. There are no easy fixtures, and so how you get there, and I know this will upset Hurzeler to hear it, is not as important as getting there. I just think maybe, Paul, then one of the things we're seeing is the influence of the certain attackers maybe not being at the top of their game when we need them to be. And I do think, you know, I look back at Mikel's time at Arsenal, and I think of some of the strikers we have. He didn't play Aubameyang at striker. He played Lacazette there, and he played Jesus there, and he played Kai Havertz there, and he played these guys who drop into midfield and combine play. And we've complained at times, well, they're too deep. They're never in the box when we need them. But they helped us have that dominance and that control. And this was a game with Gyökeres and Martinelli in particular, where I think both of them had poor games, and they are not players who were able to get on the ball and give us control. And we'll talk about the subs and how that helped change that. But so how much do you think that's impacting our ability to create that field tilt, that control? Is that our forwards, in particular, Gyökeres and Martinelli in this game, are not high touch, possession oriented forwards, and we're sort of missing that extra layer of control there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fact. And we will talk about the subs. But the contrast is we bring on two players who are much better at holding on to the ball. And I think Trossard gets a bit of a pass because we kind of assume he's always control, but he gave the ball away a lot still. So, like, maybe he made us a little better, but I'm not entirely convinced. He made us feel better, and maybe the team felt a bit more comfortable. We could hold on to the ball, but in reality, I think wasn't that much different. So, had you had a winger and a striker that could drop in there, look, what do you want? You want Havertz. Had we had Havertz from the start of this and him been fairly fresh, we would have relieved all sorts of pressure, would have joined up more passages of play. But our team's jaded. The striker's probably pretty jaded at this stage. He gets played all the time. He's lower touch. And so the ball keeps bouncing back through them, back to us. We get it at the back. We try and play it out. Saka loses the ball because he's a little tired. It's not just Martinelli, Gyökeres, but that extra burden of the ball. We're playing uphill for much of this game. But I'm not actually sure that we disagreed on too much, Elliot. When I heard what you said versus what I said, I think we said the same thing. We tried to play. I'm watching I got a little distracted.
I think it's
here.
more your comment that they didn't really do much to hurt us. I think there was some last ditch defending. That is they had a shot blocked by their own guy. Gabby headed it off the line. Zubimendi tried to give it away to them in a cheap area. Gabby Magalhaes had to make an insane diving intervention. Piero and Cappy had to charge down a guy who was driving into our box unmarked.
Wow, you had a much more exciting game than the one I watched.
But you don't remember those moments? Those are big. Those were all big moments. What are we talking about
football?
here?
Have you met football? Stuff happens at some stage.
Well, yeah, but more of it happened at our defensive end in that first half than their defensive end.
That's the way it's supposed to work. They're at home.
But we defended it. Yeah, we defended it. And that's the key. We defended it. And I think, and those things stick in our mind because they're quite nervy, right? But we defended it.
They deserve credit. Wait. I'm giving us credit for doing those things. I'm just saying I can't connect to the idea that we were never under threat in that first half.
I never said that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's debate who said what, or we can talk about what happened in the game. So speaking about
we struggled, we absolutely struggled. And if you can't string passes together, it's coming back at you, and there will be situations. And there were a couple of moments. By the way, if they'd scored, we probably would have scored again.
I mean, maybe 4 or 5 times. No one can know because none of that happened. But what we do know, Clive, is that Martinelli and Gyökeres weren't getting involved. And then the other thing that I think is interesting, Piero and Capier had a brilliant game. I'm really growing to appreciate this player, but I feel like our fullbacks are not inverting as much into midfield as they did. Calafiori, when he played, even when he came on in this game, really noticeable how much he was in the center of midfield. And our fullbacks, I think, are staying wider. And then you have Martinelli who doesn't come into midfield. And so maybe it's just a numbers game that we don't have as many players in midfield. Declan Rice was pulling out to the wide areas. So do you think there was a tactical plan to try to overload wide areas and build through there? Because it didn't feel like we had a presence in the center of the pitch. That was not an area we were really able to influence the game.
It's the way we're doing it at the moment. We've got our fullbacks on the outside. I think Calafiori does take a position a lot off of Trossard. So Trossard goes wide, he comes inside. I don't think he inverted in this game, to be honest, Elliot. And I don't judge the success of a fullback whether they invert or not. That's the style of play we've played in the past. And sometimes we do it and sometimes we don't.
I'm not saying it's success. I'm just saying, like, it's noticeable we have fewer bodies in central areas right now than maybe we have in the past.
And I think we're going direct a lot more. And in this game, I think Tom said something on his press conference that this is the most long balls that we've played. You know, in Mikel's time, I think we played 60 long balls in this game. And so that we were missing the midfield out. We're going to a front four and we're trying to get it from there. And that's the way we chose to play. Before the game, there were people saying that Brighton are quite pressy, they're quite aggressive. So when Martinelli's picked, I'm thinking, yes, mate, Mikel's picked the right guy. I want to see this guy. Let's see him come on to us so we can get him behind him. Gyökeres is fresh off a, player of the month type performance at Spurs. And basically, we're looking at a situation where we've got two sprinters there, Eze and Saka there. I'm quite comfortable with it. Martinelli has one of those days where he doesn't touch the ball. So we haven't got a player there. And we know Gyökeres could have one of those days where they don't touch the ball. And when Trossard and Havertz came on, they had more touches than them in half an hour compared to the hour. And so we immediately changed and we became 11 players again that can get around the ball. And that's why the game felt a little bit better towards the end. We had more control on the ball. Whereas we had control maybe off the ball, which always feels a bit more nervy because they have moments, right? Those moments goes against you. Then we're going to say, why didn't we attack more? Why didn't we control the game more? And so, yeah, that's how I feel about it. So every game has its own context and story. This has a 22-year context where we are literally 9 or 8 games away from doing something. So the context around this game has changed. The nervousness has changed. How people feel when you go up in 9 minutes. So we go up in 9 minutes. So Elliot, it's a different game then.
Yeah,
it's a game that
it's Paul's point. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's scoreboard driven. It's a different game. So do my fullback want to invert and leave a winger over his shoulder like Mitoma, or do I think I'll stand on Mitoma because if I stand there, he can't no space for him to run into, and we're going to hold on to his lead, and those 4,000 fans behind the goal are going to be really happy. So if we hadn't scored, I guarantee you Timber will be flying down that wing with Saka and they'll be trying to get a goal. And so it's just the game state. Maybe we scored too early. And because we scored early, we not say saw the game out, but we were comfortable in our holes. We were comfortable in our areas. We were comfortable in our spaces. But for me, we didn't have enough ball players and ball retention.
Yes.
Once we'd scored, you then, your body and your mind and your eyes watching the game, you scored a goal now. I don't like this. I need to hide the ball from them. I need to have 15 passes in a row. I don't want to be direct anymore because we've got the goal. So suddenly the team that you have is not the right team. But again, the manager nailed it. He nailed it. He didn't make his 72-minute sub. He makes his 1 hour sub. And the last third of the game, we controlled it. So it's just football, mate. I know I say it all the time, but it's just football. 1-0 drove a lot of that scenarios.
Yeah. And I mean, some of it is just about personnel and the players that are the right players for the right moment. Because as we're about to get to with the substitutions, it really did change the game and changed my sense of the game, even though I don't think we were suddenly a dynamic flowing attacking force and stringing passes together left and right. There was a much greater level of control in my mind. And I think, and Tim said this in his voice note last night, it felt more comfortable in the last 5 or 10 minutes than it did in the 30th or 40th minute.
Agreed.
So one of the talking points too, when it comes to sort of the anxiety I felt watching the game a little bit, Paul, was Mascara picking up that early yellow. And I just want to get your thoughts on the Mascara performance. I think we forget how young this player is, how inexperienced he is at this level of football, and to come in and start a big away game in an atmosphere that was really vibrant. And with the pressure that he has on him, and then to get that early yellow card, I think that's a big tightrope to walk. He just about walked it, I think is the way I would put it. But what did you make of his contribution and the extent to which the early yellow created a lot of nerves just around watching what was happening in the game?
Definitely a factor. And he came in pretty hot into the team earlier in the season, and every performance, maybe we were a little generous with our eye in that we were normally expecting to see such a downgrade from whoever steps in for Saliba or Gabriel, that he was so close to what Saliba was able to do. We're like, oh, well, now we don't need to worry about it at all. But as you said, he's a young guy. And now we're asking him to come in at the 9th last game of the season when championships are on the line. It's a whole other level of challenge for him to slot back in, plus our idea of what we want to see, the amount of stress we want to see from that area of the pitch, we're no longer as tolerant for little missteps. And like the thing that stuck out to me early on was they had a chance where the gap between our two centre backs was just too big. I'm like, that doesn't look right? You have two centre backs with that amount of space and they're the width of the goal apart, and you're like, it doesn't look right. And that's all understanding and references and stuff. And he's got a lot on his plate coming in. He's fresh, but he doesn't have a feel for it. And suddenly we're in this kind of, it's very old school kind of game. It was very physical, attritional, etc. Herzler had said they planned to be dirty, which apparently didn't get any coverage in the media, which is strange. All the things he did say got a lot of coverage before the game. He also did say he planned to be dirty. And the amount of tricks they played, delaying of time, he says, of course, we delay time too, but not like them, because we're not them, we're us.
When we do it, it's beautiful. It's beautiful and tactical and intelligent.
You remember the free kick they take where they tried to hit it off our player to show we were blocking it, and they hit it off their player in midfield, and they all claim for the retake of the free kick because we were standing so close, but they hit it off their player. And then they do the same thing against us. They stand in front of the ball for us. So it was a broken up, messy game. It was a little unpleasant. They had something to do with that too. Yeah. They planned it to be agricultural, but yeah, Mosquera. Look, it's a credit to him that I think Arteta gets it perfectly right. He trusts him to see out much of the game, and then when it's getting to the stage of the game where we could be kind of roasted on a spit continually going into it, and I turned out better than that. But he got him off at the right time, where it wasn't some decision out of nowhere that crocks this game. And we've done phenomenally this season for not having stupid moments, or in the moments where it's touch and go, for us to kind of have the poise and the aura about us that we're not that crazy team where such and such was a penalty or such was the yellow card. Referees are kind of being fairly reasonable to the decisions they make against us. And I think that's in part because of how this team carries itself.
No, I agree. I think that by and large, referees this season have avoided making big calls they don't have to make, and being the story. And for Kavanaugh to avoid that is particularly special because he loves to be the story. As we know, he had sent off a play. It was ringing in my ears when they said on the broadcast he had sent off a player in each of his last two games. So I was waiting for the hat trick.
And we just don't feel like a team that should be having a player sent off. So when the incident happens, we're not crazy. We're not flying into things. There's a sense of control about the game. So when those 50-50s happen, the referee doesn't feel like it's due.
Yeah. And so ultimately, I mean, it's a half where Bukayo Saka gets us a goal, a bit of fortune with it taking the deflection, through the keeper. And mostly then it's a fractious affair where there's a lot of ball going long, a lot of changes of possession, but we get to the half and the numbers are pretty stark. We had 4 touches in their box, 1 shot. Saka's worth 0.01 XG, 76% passing and 42% possession. So whether you regarded it as riding our luck or just, playing a more defensive approach and keeping it out, we needed to get more control of the game. And the remit in the second half was going to be, don't let it be, I think, quite as helter-skelter as it was in the first half. And so we're going to want to talk about how we got there because the subs were a big part of that. I think that gives us a really good turning point for what is always, I think, the highlight of the pod and the thing that you come here for most. Not Paul and I disagreeing about whether we agreed or disagreed. While that is, I think, interesting, maybe for me, but for you, it is certainly about the brands. And one of the brands that we want to tell you about is NordVPN. Just used it on my trip to London. It is just absolutely essential to watch the things you want to watch wherever you are around the world and access the services you want on the internet wherever you are, regardless of what the conditions may be. It's that simple. It's an app. You put it on your phone, you put it on your tablet, put it on your computer. It gives you protection. There is threat protection. It gives you the ability to avoid certain detections that are happening around the internet, and to watch the things you want to watch. I find it to be high speed, easy to use, and incredibly effective. And look, a VPN isn't a sexy product. It's a thing you just want it to work. NordVPN works. Simple, easy, effective. And they have a great value for you. You are going to get a discount off your Nord plan, but 4 bonus months on top. And it's risk-free because you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if that sounds good to you, then the way you do it is you go to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. That's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is therapy. That simple. It's therapy. And therapy is health. Mental health is health. I cannot emphasize enough, with everything going on in the world and the challenges we face, and we're inundated with things that are designed to induce anxiety, most notably football, I think we should point out. Getting help working through challenges is important. You work with a physical trainer if you're strength training, or you might work with a nutritionist on your diet. You have doctors you see. You work with someone on your mental health, and that is a part of being a healthy overall person. BetterHelp has over 30,000 therapists. It's the world's largest online therapy platform, served over 6 million people globally, and it works with an average 4.9 out of 5 rating for a live session based on 1.7 million client reviews. Prioritize your well-being with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/vision to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vision. And once you are healthy and once you are safe on the internet, then you can focus on starting your e-commerce business. And if you are starting an e-commerce business, you're going to use Shopify. Shopify is the platform where you can simply say, here's my product, here's what it looks like, here's what I want to sell it for. Boom, you have a website that looks like a Fortune 500 website. Let's face it. If people are going to buy from you and you want your customers to feel confident buying from you, your website should look professional, but also you might need to reach them on TikTok Shop, on Instagram Shop, on Facebook Shop. In this day and age, if you're not on those shops, your products aren't discovered. And so there's integrations for all those platforms with Shopify that are easy. If you're not into coding, if you're not into web development, if you don't want to do any of that design, you just want to bring your wonderful products to the world where it does cart optimization and shipping and taxes and integrations, Shopify is the platform. Use it. I have. It's brilliant. It works great. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Cha-ching. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling at shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision. That's shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Hear your first cha-ching this new year with Shopify. Buy your site.
Indeed.
Nailed it. Clap. Okay, so not the perfect first half. Whether you are more aligned with how I saw it or more aligned with how Clive and Paul saw it, somewhere in that range is still not picture book, not exactly how we drew it up. And Mikel had a big decision to make about when to bring the subs on and who to bring on. And boy, oh boy, did he get it right, Clive. These subs, and in particular Kai Havertz, made a huge difference. He brings Kai on. He brings Leo on. He ultimately brings Calafiori on from Mascara just 4 months later. 4 months later? 4 minutes later, although it felt like months as I experienced it. But the subs made a massive difference. And from that point, even though it's not that we battered them, I think a lot of the anxiety ebbed from the game, a lot of the sense that we couldn't get on the ball or couldn't repel them ebbed from the game. So what did you think of the subs and their impact, and why did they make the impact they made?
Yeah, sort of touched on it a little bit earlier. I think one thing I think we haven't quite discussed about the first half is how we looked. As a team, we looked incredibly fatigued. And that underpins a lot of our creative play. It underpins a lot of our proactive movement as well as the scoreboard, right? So I watched that game, honestly, with an overriding emotion of we look tired. Players that literally, this is the year of the horse, right? And the horse in our team, it couldn't even run. That tells you that where we were. So when you see players like that are struggling, you're thinking, okay, wow. So then what do? You revert to, when you can't run, you revert to position. So you make the pitch smaller, you have your distances tighter. Well, does that stop? That stops progressive movement going forward because you're not splitting, you're not springing out of your spot, you're not retaining the ball. Well, we didn't retain the ball. That's when we really need someone to retain the ball. And Gyökeres was not as successful as he was against Spurs. So we didn't retain the ball when we went long, when we went high. And so we're in a situation now, okay, we'll defer. We will defer to position. But then the decision to bring on Havertz and Trossard was perfectly timed because we take off 2 low touch players for 2 higher touch players that want to have a little bit more ball security. And from the moment they came on, they start to move their body in a different way to receive it, thinking about the next pass. And that sort of cohesion returns straight away. And then you start to see movements. So the pass count goes up. So rather than lose the ball in 3 or 4, we're losing it in 9 or 10. They're having to work a bit harder. And suddenly they drop away. So it's getting to your passing volume is what changes it. And it may not even be that high passing volume. It may just be you're playing the ball to a moving centre forward that's favourite to receive it. He chops against the grain, gets a foul. Thank you very much. Everyone walks up. We take 15 minutes to take that free kick. Then we pass it back and then go from there. But it gives us a level of control. They are not dictating the momentum. They're not dictating what's happening. We are dictating what's happening. And they are becoming more and more and more frustrated. And so at the start of the game, Brighton push onto us. We've got sprinty players. We get our goal. That team no longer suits. We wait to an hour. We bring on a team of ballers that can look after the football. And suddenly, the front four that ended that game, Elliot, we spoke this week about our best team for Champions League final, which will change every week, by the way. That front four that ended that game could be a Champions League final front four quite easily. You know, yeah. and suddenly you think, oh, that makes a lot of sense, you know, but we haven't seen it because Trossard had a bit of a flat period recently. Kai's played hardly any games. People are shouting, what about Martin Odegaard? Martin Odegaard has played, I think he had 13 league starts this season, right? And we're up to, 30 games? Right? So we have visions of players playing, but we haven't really seen them play together. But what I felt when these two coming on was a level of comfort that I didn't really have. And my comfort index just went up and up and up and up. And we look more like ourselves. I have to say, Kai Havertz is such an interesting player. I've always been a fan of him. But the more he doesn't play, the bigger fan I'm becoming. And when he does play, it's like he's worked the game out. You know, and you often, when you're a football player, particularly when you're one as old as I was, you work the game out when you can't run anymore. You know, and I wish I knew this when I could actually play and I could run. And
yeah.
I think with Kai, he's worked the game out, but he can still move. And the only thing that's stopping him from moving more often is injury. And I think this team is defensively, and you've also often said we are defined by our defence, which we probably are. But the Arteta attacker in his era is Kai Havertz. I think he's a defining player. I think that's the forward that we all want to see on the pitch. Whether it's 9 or 10, I don't really mind.
Yeah, the ball sticks to him, and that makes a huge difference. He also just moves intelligently. I actually thought too, the pressing that we were able to do when he and Leo was so much better. You know, I really watched Gyökeres press, and he's up for it. He runs, but I don't think it's always as intelligent in terms of angling that run, you know, blocking the passing lane with the way he presses. I noticed a couple times he would run right at the ball and it was played around him, and then he'd chase that ball, and then the guy he was pressing would run by him. Kai, I think, added quality to our pressing game, so it made it just that little bit harder for them to progress the ball. He's just a really thoughtful, intelligent player. And Paul, I think it's also interesting that Eze stayed on 90 minutes. I think it's a big day for Eze in a way, because it was Mikel showing confidence in him in an off-the-ball game, in a defensive effort, trying to hold on to a 1-0 away. These are the situations where Mikel has had a bit of a quick hook for Eze in the past. Now, I don't know what other options he had necessarily, so maybe it's desperation more than confidence, but it feels a little like trust. And I think he worked really hard off the ball and was, you know, as effective as he can be in that regard, and showed that he can be trusted to do the work when the slick passing game is not. He had a couple of little nice moments where he played players in, could have led to goals, but it was his off-the-ball work that I think will earn him credit in the bank. So thoughts on Kai's sub-performance, and maybe a bit on Eze staying on for 90 minutes to help us see it over the line?
Yeah, look, he could have brought on Norgard, which I know is not his favourite sub, but it did happen in this game. So we could have gone for security a little earlier.
Yep.
But he'd brought on Leo and Havertz, and he kind of leaned into having Eze there. And if you remember the game, we started getting corners and staying up the pitch. Now, we were taking some very tired corners and set pieces in this. Declan's delivery, he's so bloody shagged, even his deliveries from free. He went short quite a lot, played to an, it's like, it was a low energy, how do we manage our way through it? But certainly we started getting up the pitch towards the end of this game. After we got the subs on, he kept Eze on. Eze worked hard. He's not going to bring the intensity and the pressing. You're not going to feel pressed by Eze. Even if he chases you down, it's almost like a warm massage. So you're not really going to feel it. He doesn't arrive with intensity. He's like, okay, I've arrived. You can pass now. We both know how this plays out. But he was getting around the pitch and closing the gaps and shadow cover and all that crap. So he was doing what was required to hold up the defensive end. But I think his role to be on the pitch was, why bring on Havertz and Trossard if you're not going to lean into that? Let's get the ball to them. Let's connect to them. And I think it shows up. I think that last 20 or so minutes we play is, if you look at our XG charts, is reasonable. We're ticking along. There's something happening every few minutes. It's a free kick. It's a corner. Look at their XG chart for the last 20 minutes. It's a straight line, and not in the good way. They do literally nothing over the last 20 minutes. When you look back and say, I wonder why I felt so calm for the last 20 minutes compared to normal times.
Let's not overstate things.
Okay. Well, you were watching. Look, you go looking for drama. You're watching the City game at the same time.
No, I only watched it after full time of our game, to be fair, but that was all the drama I needed. Thank you very much.
But you wanted to. Clive and I knew better. Yeah. We don't go looking for that shit in the middle of a game.
I did have a little sneaky look, to be honest. I have to be honest.
Yeah. So, just look at the XG line for them for the last 20 minutes. Literally flatlined. Not a bump, not a wrinkle, not a, they don't have a 0.001 on their XG chart. We just snuffed them out. Yeah. And I think Eze and Havertz getting us down the other end. Look, I don't want to put too much gloss on Eze and his key, but it made sense as a substitution not to make, because you're comfortable that he's doing the minimum required from a shape standpoint, that he knows where to be. You got him up front, he's pressing with Havertz, so where he's not going to drop a clanger, you got him in the Odegaard pressing spot, have him run around, fill the gaps, and then when we get the ball, and Arteta talked about it in the presser afterwards. He was asked about, it was Tom Canton who asked the question about going long so often. Was that his plan? And Arteta basically said absolutely not. But the players make the decision on the pitch, and they weren't feeling it. It wasn't what he wanted them to do. It's not what they were supposed to be doing. But guess what? At some stage, you come up with the answer that when I try and be overly clever here, we lose the ball in a dangerous spot. And so I'm going to play percentages. And then Kai comes on, and you can lean into that.
Yeah. Clive, Zubimendi came off for Norgard with about 10 minutes ago. I think it was 80th minute, roughly. Zubimendi, as I mentioned, the most minutes of any outfield player. It is the case, I think, that people have their eye on him a bit recently in terms of what he's giving us in build-up, and maybe he's made a few errors, a few sloppy back passes that stick out in the memory. I think he's still a really important player in terms of what we're doing, and has been hugely influential all season. But there's no question in my mind that the season is taking a toll on him. It's more, I'm sure, more minutes than he's played in any season ever at this stage, in a much more intense league. I wonder how you evaluate the double pivot, two shattered players in my mind in Rice and Zubimendi, and whether they, or in particular Zubimendi, needs to have more opportunities to get some rest. Obviously, this weekend will be a great opportunity, but he's someone where I think it is taking a toll. I think we're starting to see that.
Yeah, it's taking a toll on both of them, and I think it's taking a toll on Timber at certain stages this season as well. Yeah, and we can see, and what's the common denominator behind this? Ben White's fitness has maybe mean we've overplayed Timber, and when we have played White, we overplayed White and got him injured again, right? So
Marino or Odegaard, so we're limited in choices in midfield.
So there you go. You took the words out of my mouth. And so not only has he played the most meters, he's covered the most meters of anybody in the Premier League in his first season with no winter break. So I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a real positive. We are lucky that we have an FA Cup draw that hopefully we can sit him down. But every time I think, crikey, got to give this guy a rest. He's dying. I can see he's dying, but he's still out there giving it some. Against Spurs, I thought he did well. Comes off the game, covered the most kilometres in that game. And so he's still producing it. And every time I think, rest him. Then the training pictures come out the next day and he's in the middle of them smiling. And I think, mate, have a rest. Have a rest. And he has missed a few training sessions because the manager knows he's got to look after him because he plays internationally as well. His first pick, Roger always has a little moment, so he doesn't have to play in international games. So Zubimendi plays all them as well. Yeah. And on that point, Elliot, there's a moment coming up in the season, the March international break, where that is a time for rest. And
what's going to be a time for, Clive? Negotiations. There's going to be a lot of national team managers negotiating.
I thought about this on my walk today. I thought, I want to talk, I'll bring this up. That end of March international break could be the season. And we have to be big. We have to be big and say what we need to say about our players because these players are in 4 competitions. And so the international manager, if he wants these players for the summer tournament in some sort of shape, has to be smart. So the most important conversations in this week is with Thomas Tuchel, for example, with the Spain manager, with the Germany manager. He's probably keen to see Kai Havertz come back in, and play that role because Voltemade has gone a bit cold. So he's thinking, can I get Havertz for the World Cup? Odegaard, Norwegian captain. We haven't seen much of him, but he's coming back to health. This is important stuff. The Brazilian players, we lost Gabi for a period after Brazil friendly. This is the season. So whatever dreams we have, this is the moment where we're smart, we can rest or negotiate. This is the only time we're going to get. So the international breaks, I've flipped them completely because you play 2 games in 2 weeks, whereas normally that's 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So when you go away, you actually get a rest. You get to see your family, you get to see people in your own country. It becomes a mental rest. I think it's critical 2 weeks of the season that we've managed that well and come out the other side in shape. Because if we do, then we're still in the competition that we all hope we're going to be in. Mate, it's all on. A few years ago, I know it's a little while ago, we lost Kieran Tierney. Remember in the international break towards the end of the season and destabilised us massively? Things like that can't happen again. And so...
Didn't we lose Gabi in international breaks, consecutive seasons or something?
We have done. And so this is the moment of the season coming up. So
I think the other interesting thing is sometimes what clubs will do, right, is they will take a player out of the game before an international break saying he's injured in an effort to try to keep him out of the international break playing for his national team. The game before the
conversations, didn't they, Elliot, to be honest, mate? There's rather than this. We do that in September or October, but this is the crunch time and we have a World Cup.
Well, the game before the international break is a cup final. So no one's keeping their players out of a cup final to try to get cute with national teams. It is a tricky one because if this was a non-international tournament summer, national team managers might be a little more pragmatic about what's best for the player and their club. But it's a World Cup summer, and there's no national team manager that's going to think about the club's best interest in a World Cup summer. So it is what it is. To your point, Clive, I think it is a really intelligent point. It's still less football than they would be playing if there was no international break.
But to Clive's point, it is a discussion and a negotiation. But the national managers, they need those players fit for the World Cup too. Yeah. They want Zubimendi to finish the season strong for Arsenal, to stay fit. They don't want them crocked. Now, we've seen behaviours that don't match up to that, but that's where the quality conversations, they understand the position Arsenal's in, where we are in the league. So the players don't have quite the same pressure that if I don't play in the international break, I may not get on. They could go into the World Cup as Premier League champions if they play it right, which gives them a status that they're not going to have otherwise, that keeps them in the thinking of people. So it is about really good communication. Thomas Tuchel has been there. He knows what this is all about. We just got to make sure he remembers the welfare of the players, not just during the international break, but during the end of the season, coming into the World Cup. They won't be, but they should be mostly all on the same page if they have the right conversations.
Yeah. It is the case that the national team managers do themselves no good if they break their own players either, right? So it is a balancing act. So to finish off on this game, by the way, it was interesting. There were some moments for us to make the game safe, actually. Kai was played in a few different times. Once, and it's funny, Declan Rice, right? Totally shattered. Can't run, can't pass. Looks like he needs a vacation. And then what does he do? Finds a way to drive to Baleba, get the ball off him, get it into Kai, and then Baleba somehow gets up and manages to recover that situation. Kai was played in and shot near post. There was a moment where Kai, I think, could have played someone else in, but decided to go down and let the clock tick away. There was the flashpoint where Saka went down, injured, quote unquote, and then they attempted to pick him up off the ground, which, as I understand it, is a war crime. I've been told that was a war crime, but I've seen no tribunal convened for it, so we'll just have to accept that it was forgiven. And that was it. We saw it out, and I really think I don't want to think this way, but there is a part of me that just wonders if Kai Havertz had been fit enough to play 90 minutes every 3 days this season, where could we be? I mean, we're already in a fantastic position, to be fair, but if he can see us through, with some minutes during the run-in, it's going to make a huge, huge difference. And that's no disrespect intended to Gyökeres, who is our leading scorer, but I think there is just a big difference there. I think there is a really big difference there. So, Clive, as we start to wrap on this game and talk about where it leaves us and the state of the title race and how things are looking right now, I just think Mikel has used the squad so intelligently, the best he's able to. And what's crazy is, in any other season, we'd be talking about an injury crisis. Odegaard not playing, Saliba not playing, Kai Havertz hasn't been fit enough to play much. Marino's season is essentially done, right? All of these players who we've been without and continue to be without, but he's using the squad intelligently. He's finding the players to bring on the right time. And I thought this was masterful management in this game, both in terms of his use of the subs and his comments to sort of not take the bait that was offered to him. A good day for Mikel, I think.
Yeah, well, he's an adult, and Herzler showed that he's less mature adult, shall we say. So leave that in the past and ignore it, because you're hopefully going to a different place. If he keeps his focus like he has done and keeps being the captain of the ship and steering in the right direction, and the players keep following him, which they seem to be massively, then Thomas Herzler just disappear. And you haven't got to stay focused on it too long, and we should stop mentioning his name on that point. I think the most important thing is we're coming to the crunch time, and it is the crunch time. And everyone thinks there's only one team that understands the course. And so all we can do is break the course up into small pieces and attack it that way, depending on how you feel about your performance and where you are. Our key ability to manage, we said this before, to manage change in a game and to manage changes in our game, I think is our number one trick. Managing change is what this team can do. When players come in, and we all can sense these momentums now, because we're lacking a little bit of structure at the moment because we're a little bit fatigued. Our forward players not holding it. And so we all want a bit more of Odegaard's control or Havertz's control. We're missing Marino because the game is telling us that we want to get more control over it. So the people that control it, we want them back in. But then when we have control, then we need some bit more ability to run in behind, because that's what the game is now changed, running behind. We have the ability to put these players on and change whatever the game is telling us. And that was always the key. I think the strategy around squad depth has changed our lives. You mentioned a few players earlier that are injured. We didn't mention Ben White, mention him again. And,
good point. Yep.
And just having this depth has changed our lives. And even within that, there's only been 2 or 3 times where we've had to not name senior pros in the squad. So we've been injured most of the time, and we've had to manage that. I just think it's changed us completely, having this depth and quality of depth. We would be nowhere near anything without it, given the issues that we've had. and what we've done in the past and how we've reacted to them, we can react to them in a much more concise way. Where me and you have a conversation this week, Elliot, about which left back we should play in a European Cup final team. And we're really not that bothered, really, are we? You know,
No.
It wouldn't bother us in the slightest which one would play, you know, and so.
Which is a huge credit to Piero Hincapié, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just been sensational.
Yeah, well, in this game, he was like, I don't know what he was on. Everyone else was knackered, but he obviously he prepared himself right for the game. But again, he hasn't played every minute this year like Zubimendi has. He's come into the team, he's in a peak moment. I thought Eze's in a good physical moment. Why? Because he didn't play that much over the Christmas period. And Eze, by the way, if I'm Tuchel watching him and watching his duel numbers and watching what he's doing off the ball, I'm thinking, mate, you're coming to the World Cup with me because I can trust you in different phases of the game, not just pretty play on the ball, but in all phases of the game, because you're learning about an adult's game at a senior club, going for the best trophies in the game, and you're having to be responsible. And they're the sort of players that get into England squads. Not fancy Dans that do a bit every now and again on the ball. That's not going to work, you know, for people like Tuchel, who's a proper manager. And so, yeah, it's where we are at the moment, mate. It's where we are. And I think it is, I'm trying, like like everybody, Elliot, I'm trying not to stay calm on this one and not get too
stay calm?
I'm trying to stay calm on this.
Okay.
I'm really trying to stay calm. But secretly in my mind, I'm making plans. Right? I'm making social plans.
Well, you saw what I'm not going to say it out loud, but you saw what Paul's headline on the instant reaction was. So,
yeah.
I'm not going to say it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, it does seem like a pivotal night. It may not be, right? It's
No, I think it is. I think it is. I think that's very fair because
it felt like the night that you would look back on. Now, you know, I'm not somebody who gets headlines and is out there publicly in the mid. So it doesn't really matter whether I'm right, wrong, or whatever my feeling is. But I'll look at a night like this. If I was, you know, if I'm Ian Wright, I maybe don't say it. But I'm not Ian Wright. I'm me. And
could have been confused for him, to be fair.
Could have. Yeah. We've been on the same stage together, and people got confused. This felt like a night where there was a big shift. Now, we could screw it up, so it's possible, but we've put ourselves in a whole different psychological space when we look at this as a race to the finish line than before this game started. We were the one who had to play away from home at a tricky ground. City had a relatively more comfortable, and they screwed up. Their draw felt like a loss. Our win felt like a big psychological thing. Clive, yeah?
Oh, no, carry on, mate. I was going to say, you triggered something in my mind. We got 8 games to go, 5 at home, 3 away. Right? So obviously we've got City away. The 5 home games, they're not easy. I was there for Everton at home last season, and I think it was a 0-0, right? So, and I saw why people like Jordan Pickford, right? Because he played really well. And that's going to be a really tough game. So I am not in open top burst mode yet. It felt like a pivotal moment, but the next game grows in our minds as it gets closer. Yeah. By the time we're doing a preview pod for that Everton game, we'll all be petrified again. You know, but we should be able to enjoy this moment where an unexpected extra 2 points came in our bin, and we found a level of resilience, and maybe show people we've got a strong mentality and we're all unified and together against the world that's screaming at us for ruining football. Yeah. I think this is a really, really important night until the next game, what really, really matters, you know, and that's where we are.
Well, okay, so a couple of things, because I think you hit on a few things that are really important there, and I'll bounce it back to you in a moment, Paul. First of all, there is a point where you suddenly realize you can do something, where you may have doubted it, but you realize you can do it. There's that line in Rocky IV, for anyone who's ever seen that movie, where he says to Rocky, you know, he's fighting Ivan Drago. He says, he's worried. You cut him. You hurt him. You see, he's not a machine. He's a man. And like, this is as clear a moment as it gets. This is Nottingham Forest at the Etihad. City leading twice, unable to hold it, unable to get it over the line. It is such a clear message to the Arsenal players. They are not the machine they were. This is not the team that chased you down 2 years ago. You don't have to feel like they're right on your back, like the Terminator waiting to chase you down. And I think psychologically that matters. I also think something has changed in the fans. I was at the Wolves game. at the Emirates. The fans were not only nervy, but maybe even a little bit aggravated. And I understand it. It's Wolves at home and you expect better than that. But there was a lot of anxiety in the ground. I was also at the Chelsea game. Also not the perfect performance. But there was much more of an effort to get behind the team and help see them over the line. And then you look at the away support at Brighton and the full-throated support and the effort to get them over the line. And I think fan support is changing now from, oh, boo-hoo, we didn't get the right result at Forest, or we didn't get the right result at Brentford, to realizing we can do it and the players need us, that they're shagged out, that it's a long season. And I think there's that little bit of turning the corner now with this night. It'll help drive support, I think, in the ground when it's Everton in a couple of weeks. And I think it is a great psychological help for the players. And again, I think the fact that we play Mansfield at the weekend and then it's Leverkusen and we take a break from the league with this in our minds, I think psychologically there's a big boost here. And Paul, look, it's hard to evaluate psychology because you can get it so wrong, right? I mean, it's just one of those things. They have confidence until they don't have confidence. But I do think that the connection between the fans and the players and this night and what it does to the momentum is substantial, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's easy to evaluate psychology because nobody can prove you wrong. It's like,
well, maybe that's all I'll evaluate then.
Yeah. I do want to point out to you, Elliot, you do realize Rocky was a movie, right?
No, that really happened.
It was made up.
Yeah, it really happened.
I know in America, it's Ronald Reagan, acting president at the time, once told a story of his heroism that turned out to be part of a film plot he was in.
Look, Rocky is so real that the city of Philadelphia put a statue of him there.
That's true.
So
that makes it real.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it was all set up for City, this relentless machine, to just keep grinding away. And even if we won tonight, last night, even if we won tonight, they win tonight. And the next, they go blow for blow and we go first, then they go first and the pressure's on us. And that all just went poof. Now, anything can happen in the race, but it's clear to your point where Rocky fights Ivan Drago. I had no idea what his name was.
Mm-hmm. Terrible movie, by the way.
Terrible movie.
But a lot of fun.
Suddenly, they're just a team. They're a good team.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. But there's nothing special going on here. It was wrote. It was written. The hand on the wall. And
they're complaining about refs. They're moaning about calls now, right? They're not immune to it. You'd always hear, the real winners don't complain about this stuff. Clive, it's in their head. They're now the ones who feel like it's going against them. And that we know how that can go. It's not a good feeling.
You have to put pressure on. We get thrown Liverpool, Man City because of what they've done in the last half decade, etc. When I watched Liverpool in that last few minutes against Man City in that game, and I'm watching Alisson jump out of his box to give a penalty away, I'm thinking, what are you doing? But that's pressure of the result. They wanted the result so badly, and they did strange things. City got back into that game fortuitously, and they walk out with the mentality stripes on their sleeve, right? So everyone thinks they're coming. But they are human like everybody else. They've had to react to having an incomplete team. They've got their money and they bought a couple of players in January that have been really successful, but they've got holes in their team, in the back end of their pitch. They've got aged defenders. They've got an aging midfielder who's very, very smart, Bernardo Silva, who's a cute player. They've got some really good attackers that can create moments, but they are fallible going backwards. And that's the truth. And they have been all season. They've been fallible going backwards. And all we have to do is play the football match in front of us and not play the psychological battle and listen to the external noise that's out there. If you play the football match and we are fresh enough, and this is my only worry I have, if we play with the level of fatigue we played with last night, that's going to go against us at some point. And games away at West Ham, particular fighting for their lives, home to Everton, they loom large for me. I'll be honest with you, they loom large. City will take care of itself. Trust me. Don't worry about that. It'll take care of itself. We were good enough or we're not, but we'll be ready for that game. But those little other games, they concern me a little bit. So this is why last night was important, because we've got some wiggle room for a mistake. And if we make a mistake, we've got time to react. And that's what hasn't happened before. And the fortunate draws, which we've earned in the Champions League, fortunate FA Cup draws, which are just fortunate, sometimes you look and think, you know what, maybe this is our time if we just keep ticking it off one by one.
And one of the reasons I raised the connection with the fans as something to keep an eye on is, per Orbino, City have 4 home games and 5 away. We play away just 3 more times than 5 home games. If we can really get behind the team, and
7 of 8 in London.
Yeah, 7
right?
of 8 in London.
Yeah.
So it's like what you're talking about, Clive, right? It's just, it is the case that
Mate.
if the connection is right, the home support can be a big part of helping get this team over the line.
I think that Everton game, mate, 5:30 kickoff, Elliot. Oh my goodness, it'll be frenzied in there. It'll be lively, and hopefully we can show a different face in that game. But I think having a break for league, as you said earlier, is really important. But that game is my next live game, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, obviously Champions League comes back midweek, but quickly, Clive, I'll stay with you just for a second. It's Mansfield at the weekend. This is one of those classic cases of like, it's the perfect fixture for us because we can rest everybody unless we do that and then don't get the result. And then it's like the nightmare scenario. To be fair, with everything we're fighting for, I'm not even sure how angry people would be. Very angry, let's be honest. But it's not going to happen. Don't worry. But I noticed Max Dowman was on the bench last night. Really exciting. Opportunity for him to feature potentially at the weekend. Because of the injuries, it is going to be tricky for Mikel to try to pick enough change to rest all the players he wants to. But I got to believe it's as many changes as he's able to make. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just make the changes.
Could we see a Marley Salmon too?
Yeah, we'll make the changes. I would think about Marley Salmon as a right back for this game. If Ben White's not fit, that's gone quiet. That may change by press conference on Friday. I don't know where Odegaard is. That's a perfect game to reintroduce from injury if he's able to play. So he was getting close, but not quite comfortable yet. That'd be really, really useful. Max has got to get some time in this game. Noni's going to play. I see Martinelli playing, Jesus playing, Norgard playing. So we do need the extra midfielder in there, but we've got to prioritise rest of some key people. Big Gabby's got to be rested. He's too important. Saliba, would you play him in this game if only if you have to, and only if you're really, really sure? Again, the approach to injury is so much more mature than last year. Any sort of knock, we make a change. Again, it's long term. Kid's going to the World Cup. He's going to be playing for France. He's going to be hopefully playing with us to the end of May. We need to think about players in condition at the right time. So I'd make all of the changes we can possibly make. Miles comes in, Mosquera plays the game, and that allows people to really focus on the Champions League game. If we do that well in the first leg, that opens up the second leg for more rotation, and the squad becomes really valuable again. Depending on how efficient we are. Against my only worry about this is fatigue, because fatigue really shows up in offensive freshness and good decisions and quality under pressure. That's
Thinking
where you
clearly
see
under pressure, teacup, like you always talk about.
Yeah, a teacup. That's when you notice when you're trying to create something and your creativity goes because you're just fatigued and you start doing the functional. So if we can get that bounce back in our offensive step, that'll give me the confidence that we can go anywhere. At the moment in time, we're doing what we can do, and it's enough for me.
There's a thing that happens sometimes when you haven't tasted glory in a long time, where A, you forget how good it can feel, right? You forget how good winning can feel. And B, you forget how hard it is to get there. And I think we're all feeling a little bit of both right now. How excited we are for it to happen, but how scary it is trying to get over the line. The anxiety I felt in the last few minutes of the game. And the irony is it wasn't even as nervy as it could have been from a football standpoint, but the anxiety I felt knowing what was happening at the Etihad, knowing what was happening at the Amex, understanding that if it could hold what it might mean, it was horrifying until it was exhilarating. It was anxiety, then euphoria. That's how it felt. And it's not going to be the last time it feels that way. So we are going to have to strap in. And I think if the players have to ride that emotion, I said strap in, Paul. Strap in. Saw your reaction.
I was very good.
Yep. Yeah, you were.
I didn't say strap on.
No, you didn't. And thank you for not saying that. That would have been inappropriate. So, if we can just stay behind them, that'll do it. And look, ultimately, it wouldn't hurt if we get a surprise return of Mikel Merino at the beginning of May, or if Martin Odegaard can get fit and have an impact, if Kai Havertz finds a way to maintain fitness for the run-in. All of these things, are going to matter. But for now, we get to celebrate a really, really wonderful evening. Fabian Hurzeler embarrassing himself, Mikel Arteta looking class, and the team on the precipice of doing some really exciting stuff. So I can't wait for more of it. It's Mansfield at the weekend. It feels like a nice break from the stress, but let's go and hammer them anyway. We'll be back with something really fun for patrons tomorrow. We are going to put out an interview with Jason Rosenfels. And I'm so excited for this. You know, he had a very, very big impact on the data side of the Arsenal business. And he just had a lot of interesting stuff to say. So if you want to join us on Patreon, that'll be out tomorrow for patrons. Then we'll have an instant reaction at the weekend and all the usual stuff coming. So Paul, thank you very much.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Strap in, everyone. Strap in. It's going to get exciting. My name's Elliot Smith. We love you. And we'll talk after Arsenal 10, Mansfield, though.